Hello, everyone, and welcome back to All for Women's Football. As you can see by today's episode, it is all about the Lionesses, and I'm glad to see half of us are sporting our England and Lionesses shirts. Beautiful, love to see it. So, as we know, Sarina has recently extended her contract until 2027, and so we're going to be giving our Dream 11s and just talking a bit about what success looks like for the Lionesses going forward. So, let's get straight into it. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's my turn in the hot seat tonight, which is beautiful. Love to see it. How are we all? We'll start off with Barry. How are we, Barry?
I was just going to go for the old thumbs up there, but then you decided you wanted vocals. I'm having the time of my life, and I owe it all to you.
Oh, I mean, that means the absolute world to me, Barry. Connor, how are we doing?
Yes, I'm all good. I'm intrigued. What song's that from, Barry? Where's that from? I feel like that's a famous thing that I've heard before.
Funny enough, it's called "I've Had the Time of My Life."
Oh, really?
Connor, sometimes you scare me with like your lack of just pop culture knowledge. Truly.
At least I'd heard of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Managed to reference that. But yeah, all good, mate. All good.
Brilliant. Laura, how are we? I won't touch on the weekend's result, but apart from that, how are we?
Yeah, I mean, it was good, right? So I was at the Emirates. I was stood outside the Emirates for the men's match, not inside, strangely. So I listened to the crowd, but I just couldn't be happy after the earlier result, and still not very happy now.
No, I don't think we can be. Mia, how are we doing? I'm loving the mismatched shirt, if you want to call it that.
Thank you, Meg. I am superb. Thank you very much. I am great after this weekend. We won't talk about the men's score. That's not what we're here for. But yeah, women's football wise, superb.
Jess, how are we doing? Obviously, you weren't at the Man U women game at the weekend, but nonetheless, a great result, and Nikita Parrott is on fire again.
Oh, she is. I could see Connor shaking his head there at me. I don't think I'm too popular for not being there this weekend, but I'm just saving myself. What can I say for the big Arsenal away day? But no, good weekend really for me. You know, being a United fan for once in my life, I'm actually quite happy. So long may it continue.
Brilliant. Well, I feel like it's been quite a while since, we've talked about the Lionesses. Obviously, we talked about them a bit when we talked about the FIFA Pro 11. I'm still baffled at, what that was. But yeah, it's nice to be able to sort of delve deeper into the Lionesses and look ahead to what could be an interesting few years. Obviously, Sarina has extended her contract until after the 2027 World Cup. She's been in charge for a few years now. We've won the Euros. We've won 2 Arnold Clark Cups. We've won the Finalissima. And we've made a World Cup final. I mean, that in itself is not bad at all, is it? I mean, 30 games unbeaten. And that was ended at Brentford Stadium when we lost to the host of the World Cup, Australia. And it was a bit of pre-World Cup nerves, I think, when we went on that run. And then obviously, ultimately, we made it to a World Cup final. So under Sarina, she's put us back on the map, really. Barry, how would you sum up Sarina's time in England so far?
Special, I think would be the word I would use for that one. I think we're so not used to having a good football team for England. It's always been nearly run. We've always been sort of, we hype our players up. They're going to be, these are the new golden ball generation. They're going to be amazing. They're going to win this. We should be winning this. We should be winning that. And what I love about the ladies England team is that they just got on with it. There was no fanfare about it necessarily. And we had the Euros, obviously, and that was just a superb occasion. It brought in a whole new load of people watching it. But I think what Sarina's brought is just something that a little bit different. I mean, we've had good managers. Hope Powell is a good manager. As you move back over the years, we've had good managers that know what they're doing. But I think what's changed is also the level of player that we're producing. And I think that makes a massive difference. So I think Sarina's been blessed. Phil Neville did all right. He wasn't terrible, just wasn't brilliant either. He was there. He was a good placeholder. But yeah, I think everything that Sarina's done has been amazing. Wasn't a massive fan of her Nations League managing. I think that was a bit of a damp squib, but that's probably the only blot on the copybook for me. I think she's been absolutely unbelievable, and I'm delighted she's put her name down till 2027, because to me, I feel like that gives us real impetus going into the World Cup.
Connor, you're an outsider looking in, if you want to say it like that. How do you see England's success over the past few years, and did we see it coming, or has it been a pleasant surprise?
I can't believe Mia's shaking her head at me like that for a start. Talking about outsiders looking in, we can go to clubs if you want, Mia. if you want to go down that road. But no, yeah, I think it was important for England to get her tied down, because there's a lot of places that clubs, international teams, and domestic sides that are looking for managers right now. Obviously, Chelsea are heavily in the market looking for a manager. There's obviously a lot of other internationals as well, of Barcelona. There's lots of different clubs and international jobs becoming available. So for England to tie down someone as good as Sarina Wiegman for another few years is important, because there was a talk when obviously Emma Hayes announced she was leaving. The one name that kept coming up was Sarina, and obviously that potentially going, Sarina potentially goes to Chelsea. So there's been a bit of a change, but I think, but I can't really say any more than what Barry's already said. I think you can't. I think is her win percentage still 75%, something like that. That's very similar to what it was with the Dutch. So she's an elite manager. Wherever she goes after England, I think we'll be very lucky to have her. But she's got a good group of players, obviously, but you also need a very good manager to lead that group of players. It's all very well having all these stars and all these great names. You've got to have somebody to lead the shit. And also, I will say, just away from the football, she just seems like a very good person. I think you listen to her interviews, you listen to how she speaks about football in general. She's just a really likable person. So yeah, I'm quite happy actually that England have kept her, because I like, not gonna lie, just football aside, I just like hearing her in interviews. So I'm glad that she's still over here for that more than anything.
Laura, obviously, we had the pre-World Cup jitters, if you want to call it that. The 2-0 loss to Australia. We had that 0-0 draw against Portugal, but then ultimately we went on to make the World Cup final. How would you sum up sort of that period under Sarina? Obviously, we weren't really used to, not scoring and not creating chances, and we had that blip, but then we did go on and ultimately make it to the final, despite a few, scrapey 1-0 wins along the way. What do you make of that period under her?
I think that says it all, that we kind of see that, like, the run to the World Cup final as Sarina's weakest period in charge of England. Like, that was her worst period, and she got to the World Cup final because we won the Euros. That was the first thing, like, she did with us. I think she's done exactly the same. She did exactly the same with the Netherlands, right? She got all the way to the World Cup final, lost, and won a Euros. And so I think, kind of echoing what Connor's saying, is really exciting to see that she has extended with us, because it feels like what Sarina wants now is to win a World Cup, which I think is super exciting, that is so nailed on as our ambition. And with the players that are coming through, I think, to go to your question in terms of that period, I think there were a lot of changes in the team at that time. I think we were starting to see kind of the changeover from, like, what we might now call, like, the old guard of the Euros winning squad with your Ellen Whites and your Jill Scotts, to now a slightly fresher generation. I think it'll be interesting to get into that as we go on, as we'll see that evolve a little bit more. And I think we were potentially still, those games were kind of a trial for what we're going to do at the World Cup. So I don't think when you're looking at those friendlies, they should really be indicative of the manager at all. I know they were. I think people got a bit upset at the time, but we got to a World Cup final, and, like, that is so impressive for your first World Cup as a manager.
And Amia, we obviously haven't made the Olympics this year, but do you see any positives in that for the Lionesses? I mean, they haven't had a break for however many years now over the summer, so ultimately you can take positives from that, can't you?
Yeah, of course. And it's, it's obviously not just, it's good for an English perspective that the girls get to have a break, because, you see the amount of injuries people are having, and workload definitely comes into that. So it is good that they get to have a summer off and a good breather. But then also on the flip side, it's not just England that got knocked out of that. It was Scotland, Northern Ireland, those players won't get the opportunity to do the Olympics, and that's the flip side of that. But yeah, I mean, I love Sarina. I make that known constantly. I think what she's done, I think she is the trailblazer for women's football in England. I think, you know, you think of that European team and it will forever go down in history. Those girls, of what they did that day has changed how we're all here, how people in the, you know, people watching us are here. It's, you know, whether we were fans before the Euros, it's just blown up. And in my opinion, that has so much to do with her and the energy that she put into this team, the belief she put into the team, the decisions that she made to bring in some of the youngsters, keep some of the older players, that balance that she just got perfectly. And yeah, as you said, to get to a World Cup final as your first go as a nation's manager. I know she's done it before, I think, with the Netherlands, but to do it again, like, history keeps repeating itself for Sarina Wiegman. She does the Euros and then she'll get to the final and then can't get that World Cup. So, as Laura said, I hope that, I mean, that is absolutely what she's going to want to go for. But fingers crossed, that woman deserves a World Cup in her trophy cabinet.
I completely agree with the balance of the experience and the youngsters. I think that is so hard to get right in a side, and I think Sarina executed that perfectly. But there's also some other things that she's done, and that was give Mary Earps a chance that Mary Earps thought she may never get again. Jess, what did you think? Obviously, Mary Earps has written her name in as one of the women's best women's goalkeepers in the world at the minute, and she puts a lot of that down to Sarina giving her a chance again. And just how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny. You only have to go back kind of, 3-4 years maybe, and she was kind of England's number 3. You know, if she was kind of lucky, she was really sitting on the peripheral there. And she said herself in numerous interviews that she basically thought her international career was like done and over. And now we're sort of 4 years on, and she is literally constantly voted like best player on planet Earth that's ever been, blah, blah, blah. She has like every award ever. And you've got to kind of believe that some of that is down to Sarina's coaching, Sarina's man management style. I think, you know, we've kind of touched on it there, the way Sarina interacts with the team, the way she gets the team to interact with each other. It's a really kind of underrated management skill. You know, we've seen it in the men's game, we've seen it in the women's game. You can have generations of fantastic players, but if you can't get those players to interact and treat each other as teammates, you're just never going to get anywhere. And you hear the kind of interviews the players have about the training camps and the tournament camps, just how good the atmosphere is, how happy they all are, and just what Sarina's kind of doing basically for the team. So I think it's absolutely fantastic that we've got Sarina nailed down until, is it 2027? I mean, dream, like you said, she deserves the World Cup. She deserves the world, to be honest. I think she is fantastic, and she does just seem like such an incredible person. Like, she just loves football. She loves the game. She was obviously a player herself, and she just is incredible. I think she's a fantastic manager, and I can't wait to see more kind of games under her, to be honest.
Well, I'm going to bring up this comment because it kind of leads us perfectly into what we're going to chat about. Is Mary still going to be number 1 by 2027? Now, I had this conversation with Connor before the show, and, you know, if we're being realistic, you know, in 3 years, she's going to be 33. Sarina will probably still make her number 1. But today we're actually going to get into our dream teams for the 2027 World Cup. And we will see if anyone has included Mary Earps as their dream goalkeeper in 3 years' time. So what we're going to do is we're going to sort of talk about each person's team, but we're actually kind of going to make like a one dream squad with everyone's sort of chosen players. We've got quite a few players that everyone did choose, which does kind of help. So I'm just going to share this onto the screen now. And we'll basically start from goalkeeper and go down. So as we can see, player 1 has not been chosen yet because not one goalkeeper has been selected by everyone. I've actually been given 3 names by you all, and those are Hannah Hampton, Kiara Keating and Emily Ramsey. Now I'm going to come to Connor first because Connor was the only one to say Emily Ramsey. Connor, why would you pick Emily Ramsey in your 2027 World Cup?
Right, and I will say, like I said, this is a want rather than a what's going to happen. She's not getting that into that spot. Yeah, she's just not. She's a very good goalkeeper. In my opinion, she's better than Hampton, and I'll stand by that. I think Hampton will get picked because she's put Chelsea, and she obviously have the spotlight on her more. Emily Ramsey is a very good goalkeeper, and I will stand by that. I would have kept her at United, by the way, and kept her as number 2, and obviously with those going potentially there as well. So yeah, I don't see how that's controversial. Ramsey is a good keeper. I don't know what the issue is there, but when you're looking at, I mean, Keating's the one, isn't she? Obviously got her age on her side and has done well for City. If that's controversial, you wait till you see who my fullbacks are, and you wait till you see the rest of my team, because that's probably going to upset a lot of people as well. I don't. It's a tough one, isn't it? It's going to be Mary Earps, like you said there. She's 33. That's not old, really, especially for a goalkeeper. So it will be Earps if she's still playing at the high level. But yeah, if you force me to change it, would go to Keating. It wouldn't go to Hampton though.
That's interesting. Barry, you are one of the two that said Hannah Hampton. Now, obviously, she's been getting a few starts for Chelsea. Really proving herself. And do you feel like she needs to be playing regular football if she is to ever become that England number 1?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Ellie Roebuck did an all right job before Mary Earps was given her a chance. I put it down to age. I've basically gone for, do I think that people should be in position at the age that they will be when they get to the World Cup? 33 isn't that old for a goalkeeper, so I do think there is a strong possibility that Mary Earps will still be that, and if she is still performing at that level, 100% she should be. But in the unlikely event that she either isn't that good anymore, hasn't been doing as well, or now plays for Arsenal, then we should probably put Hannah Hampton in. I was joking about the last one. Chill out, guys. Don't worry. For me, Hannah Hampton is the best other English goalkeeper that we currently have in the WSL. And I think playing for a team like Chelsea is only going to increase that profile and help her to do better. So for me, I chose Hannah Hampton purely on the basis the fact she'll be 26 and hopefully just coming up to her prime.
Mia, you also went for Hannah Hampton. She's had a bit of a stop-start England career so far. She's not really cemented her place under Sarina. What do you make of sort of her time at Chelsea so far? And do you think she'll start to get more regular game time?
I mean, it's really hard because Chelsea obviously have an abundance of tremendous keepers that they just like to dip in and out of using. Like they're not massively consistent, but I think whenever Hannah Hampton has played, and we saw it at Villa as well, she's always very calm, collected. The only issue with Hannah Hampton for me, and the reason that she's not been a staple of the England team, is because she's too young. And I think by the time she's 25, 26 maybe by the time the World Cup rolls round. If she's at Chelsea still playing how she is when she's playing, like, I can't remember what game it was, and she was oozing the confidence of, I think it was the United game, of Mary Earps, and it was just that like confident walk to go and get the ball, and it's just like she's picking these things up from who is actually crowned the best goalkeeper in the world. And I think her development at Chelsea is crucial, and I think, as Barry said, she's only going to get better. You're playing in one of the best teams in the world. You're going to come up against some of the best strikers in the world if you're Champions League. And then, working with Earps in the England camps, she's going to pick up a few things. I actually am not sure Mary Earps will be number 1 come 2027. I think it really depends what her next move is. If she stays at United, we'll just see. If she, goes to France, Spain, wherever, I'm just interested to see how she does in a new club, because I think that's probably likely for her. But I did go Hannah Hampton. I think she's good. I think she's also very athletic, which is something that you can see Sarina chooses across the board. She likes those sort of athletic players. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I would rate Hannah Hampton in that position.
Well, from one young goalkeeper to a much younger goalkeeper who Jess and Laura have both chosen, we've got Kiara Keating. And I'm just going to bring this question up. Have to question Keating's height for the world stage. Jess, what do you make of that comment? And do you think she will be considered in Sarina's squad for 2027?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, well, assuming that her development and everything else carries on kind of like she is now, I think she'll definitely sort of be in contention. I mean, she's what, 19? I nearly passed out actually when I saw that she was 19, because that is just insane to me that she is like starting for a world-class team at such a young age. You know, they say keepers, and the reason keepers' careers and why Marriott probably will actually be in this team is because keepers have like a longer career and they sort of get better in their later years. So for me, I think if her development can kind of carry on at the same way it's going, she will definitely be in contention for that spot. That is a good point. The point that was made about her height, she is probably what, 5'6". I don't know. I mean, I'm 5'2", so everyone looks like a giant to me, to be honest with you. So yeah, that could be something that's considered an issue. But having said that, I don't really know how tall any of the other keepers are. I met Hannah Hampton once and she seemed really tall. But again, I'm 5'2" and everyone's a giant.
Laura, obviously you went for Keating as well. She's still ridiculously young and she's got, you know, like 10 plus years ahead of her in her career. So would it be too early to call her up in 2027, or would it be the perfect time considering the experience she will have by then?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one. I think it would completely depend on what Emma Hayes' successor chooses for their first choice goalkeeper, because I think you can look at age and you can look at experience, and I think they're very different things. Because I think if you look at the England squad now, you've got players like Toon Russo who won't be like they won't even be their 30s by the 2027 World Cup, but they'll have so much tournament experience. And if Keating keeps playing as first choice for Man City and Hannah Hampton doesn't get picked as first choice, then I'd still say Keating has more experience. And I think she'll be at an age where she also has the maturity that it doesn't really matter. I think right now, maybe, yeah, she's still like 19 and like blimey, that is so young. And she's already getting called up. I just think she's such a good shot stopper and she's proven herself so many times in the WSL as such a good keeper. She has mistakes in her, but I think every goalkeeper does. I'm a bit scarred from the weekend. But I think, I just think the amount of experience, if it carries on at the trajectory that is going at the moment with Hannah Hampton not always being first choice for Chelsea, and particularly the fact that Emma Hayes said she's choosing Hampton now because she needed that kind of, I guess it's distribution qualities that with Sam Kerr missing, she decided, she basically explained the goalkeeper change as having Sam Kerr missing, requiring that. So I think it will be interesting to see whether it stays like that. And yeah, I think if it carries on the trajectory, then Hampton will have less experience compared to Keating.
Now, Connor, I hate to put you in the spotlight, but we do have 2 votes for Keating and 2 votes for Hampton. So I am ultimately going to let you decide if it was your choice who you would put in your Dream 11, because obviously Emily Ramsey didn't get any more than just your vote.
I will just say, because everyone was saying it was controversial, Emily Ramsey had the highest save percentage last season when she actually played a load of games as well. So if you want to get official, it's not as controversial as people make out. So and Hampton, by the way, not even in the top 10. So don't even start throwing that at me.
I do also want to say that I also am backing Connor here because I do actually rate Emily Ramsey. Maybe it's our United bias, but to be fair, when we were thinking about an 11, she was my substitute keeper. So I'm just throwing that in there just to help Connor out.
She also played for Everton, right? So she's going to have loads of shots at her. So she's going to have to save more.
But she's got to save them. That's why I said percentage and not actual shots saved, because the percentage is how many she's saved in proportion to how many she's faced. So
Anyway,
no.
it's a moot point because nobody chose her. But Hannah Hampton, just wanted to point this one out that McPherson's put out there. She's kept a clean sheet in every senior international. She's only played 2, to be fair. Like when I was researching this, she's had 2 seasons. I mean, you know, and I'm pretty sure they weren't against like the world's most dangerous ones. But for the purposes of this argument, yeah, Hannah Hampton's had a clean sheet in every senior international.
I mean, if you're asking me to pick between those 2, I don't know. I agree with Keaton on the height. I just think Hampton's just got so many errors in. I don't rate her at all, as you could probably tell. I don't think she's a good keeper. I think, yes, I'll go for Keaton just based off that because I just don't think Hampton's a good keeper and she makes so many mistakes.
We shall put Keating in then.
Barry, when you choose the same player as I do and it goes to sudden death, we're always losing. I'm just gonna let you know that this is my fate. I always lose these things.
Funny, I've just handed in my resignation for all United, so I've just thrown it in the private chat. He's messing with the wrong dude here.
Now we move on to right back, and surprisingly, we have actually got a name in at right back that most people have said. I mean, how can you kind of replace Lucy Bronze? I mean, you can never really replace Lucy Bronze, but you're going to have to somehow. And with the amount of names that are out there that, you know, you wouldn't look at and think, yeah, they can do a job. You know, we've got to put someone in there. Barry did say that he had no idea who he would put in. But Barry, would you like me to give the reason why you said that? And have you got a name for me that you might put in there?
I mean, the only one who would have had a potential to have been there, I would have said, was Maya Letizia, but she's no longer a right back. She plays at centre back. So I think the problem you've got there is that Lucy Bronze is going to be too old at that time. She's going to be 35. So I don't really think we can be throwing Lucy Bronze in there. And I started looking at all of the right backs that we had, and I'm just like, we don't have any. So to me, this is one of those situations where you throw a gauntlet down to all of the English right backs. This is their chance. You know, if there is a space that is clearly at the moment available and ready for taking, the right back one is the place. So yeah, for me, I think we should be looking at seeing a whole wealth of players working hard. I'm really, why is her name already there? Did everybody else go for Niamh Charles?
Nearly everyone did, but I'm actually going to go to Laura, who didn't say Niamh Charles. Laura said Esme Morgan. Laura, why did you go for Esme Morgan?
I have to say, I did have Niamh Charles at left back, so I didn't leave Charles out of it. But yeah, Esme Morgan was the only right back I could think of, if I'm honest. I have Niamh Charles down as a left back, so by default, I was kind of left for choices. I tried to look through the under 23 and under 19 squads, and rather worryingly, I couldn't find anyone who was down as a right back. I saw someone that was down as a wing back, so I'm assuming they're the right back. But yeah, I couldn't really think of anyone. But I mean, Morgan is good. She plays like first team City, which is not a bad like shout. I think she's a solid player. I'd have her probably on the bench if I thought there was someone better. I don't know if she has the presence, but I think she's very good on the ball in terms of passing ability, and she's obviously a very versatile player. Can play in several positions. I'm not actually sure which is her strongest, but I think yeah, I'd be really interested to see what happens there. But I would put Esme Morgan provisionally for me.
You see, I put Charles as left back as well. So I can only assume that the four of you have somehow just shoehorned this left back into a right back position. And already I can feel myself just slipping into Mia's pit of despair that happens whenever we do one of these things.
Now I'm going to move on, and I'm just going to bring this comment up actually, because Jess Carter's name is a name that none of you have mentioned. And I'm just intrigued as to why Jess Carter won't be in your Dream 11s. Let's go to Jess. Jess, did Jess Carter ever enter your mind?
She did, and to be fair, I should have actually looked into her a little bit more. But in my head, I was thinking that I guess she started a little bit more in recent games under Sarina, but in my mind, I'm kind of thinking, okay, she's not really cemented her position now. So in 4 years' time, or 3 years' time, time escapes me, I'm sort of hoping that there might be someone else in that period. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, she's kind of getting a little bit older. She's not quite got that position absolutely nailed down now. So I'm just thinking, in 3 years' time, is she going to be any better off? Do you know what I mean? That might be a really bad way of explaining that.
Now I'm going to move on to the centre back pairings, because we've got 3 names ultimately that I was given, and I think everyone's given the names in a sort of different pairing. So I'm going to start with Connor. Connor, you gave me Maya Le Tissier and Leah Williamson. Why have you gone for those 2?
Just because I love Maya and I want her to be playing at centre back for England. Like I said, this is a 1. It's not going to happen, I don't think. I think it, because I mean, Millie Bright's going to be 33, I think, by the time this rolls around. So I can still see it potentially. She'll be in the squad, but she can potentially still be starting, maybe. But then again, look at how Germany played with 3 of their 4 back line were over 33, and they got beat for pace in every single game that they played. So it's probably not a good idea. Oh, TJ, don't start me off on that. I've just seen your question about Maya. No, Maya and Williams, I think that'd be a good partnership. They've both got good passing range. I would swap them. I'd have Maya on the right and Williamson on the left, because I think Williamson would be better with her left foot than Maya would be. So I would swap them around and have Leah on the left side and Maya on the right. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Bright in there. And to be fair, if Women Moist continues the form she's on, potentially, I'm just thinking 3 years from now, I think Maya might be in a better position, providing she stays at the level she can obviously be at. I think Maya would be the option there. But like I said, this is more of a 1. She's not had loads of Lionesses opportunities actually yet. So, and to be honest, I think Maya's going to be shifted out to right back anyway, in terms of what I expect to happen rather than what I want to happen.
Yeah, so you just said that, and there's a few people in the comments saying that as well. But ultimately, does she want to play it right back? That is the question. Barry, you've also gone Maya Le Tissier and Leah Williamson. Obviously, she missed out of the World Cup, which was a massive shock to everyone. Do you think that her England career can start now?
I mean, first of all, I did think about Jess Carter as well. I thought, did really well at the World Cup. Actually surprised me, because I didn't think she was going to be all that great. So fair play to her. Yeah, for me, it's a no-brainer. You put Maya Le Tissier in there alongside Leah Williamson. The problem that you've got is, as John rightly says, Sarina's already said about Maya Le Tissier, that she sees her as a right back and not a centre back, which is, again, potentially something you would put in the copybook of Wiegman. Like, when you've got a player that's playing centre back every single week, why you're then just pushing them out to right back. It's why I don't like this idea of Niamh Charles going out to the right back situation. I'm just not a huge fan of that at all. But yeah, I mean, Maya Le Tissier for me is the most exciting young defender that we've had, and she plays like she's 27, 28, and she's only going to get better. So for me, 100% you have Maya Le Tissier. I can see people there saying that she's got no pace, like she doesn't need to. A bit like Teddy Sheringham in the olden days. Didn't need pace. As long as you know where to be, that's the most important thing. And her positioning and her ability in the air, ability going forward, the ability to pass a ball alongside Leah Williamson, and she doesn't muck about, go straight in with a tackle as well. Millie Bright's just going to be too old. I think we can't keep relying on the age for me. So that's why we'll be going with Maya and Leah, with Leah filling on the Millie Bright role of having the experience and leading the team.
Jess, you've also you're the last person who's gone for Leah and Maya. Do you think that's the best partnership that we will have in 2027?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I did try and look at this without my United bias, but I've been watching her play now for a couple of seasons as a United player, and I just think she's fantastic. Her defensive ability is, like Barry said, kind of beyond her years already. I mean, she's 23? And she is just fantastic. She's calm on the ball. She's got a fantastic passing range. She's not afraid to kind of like hold it up, and she's quite like a sort of old school traditional defender. You know, will go in for the kind of crunching tackles. And to be honest, I think she'd be a very good replacement for Millie Bright, because I think in terms of how their kind of defensive styles are, I think they're very similar. You know, someone mentioned about her not having any pace. Well, Millie Bright isn't exactly Usain Bolt, but you don't always need to be able to run fast. That's not going to help you if you can't actually win the ball off anyone. You know, a lot of good defending is quite often just about position and things like that, making sure that the attacker's on the right side of you. You know, you want to push them away from goal, all that kind of stuff. So for me, she's got to be on that team. I don't know whether it's in centre back or right back, but for me, she is on that pitch no matter what.
So we're going to move on to Mia and Laura, who have both gone for an Arsenal duo of Leah Williamson and Lotte Wubben-Moy. Mia, why do you think Lotte deserves that spot at centre-back next to Leah Williamson, who I assume will be captain in 2027?
Well, this is quite funny actually, because when I was making this team, I thought what the most realistic team was going to be, rather than my dream team, because I think my absolute dream team would look a little bit different to this. But I think the more that Lotte and Leah play together at Arsenal in that role, the better they'll be. They'll be 28 and 29 respectively at that point in time, probably in the primes of their careers. I'd say those ages are. Leah obviously is just generational talent, and I feel like Lotte is got it there. She really does have it. She can be quite infuriating to watch, but she's been around that team, the Lionesses team, for a while now. So I just think she's probably someone that Sarina will give the chance to. And it's worth noting as well that I did put Maya on the right, because I thought that's something that Sarina would do. Again, this is what I was building this team as if this was what Sarina was actually going to do, or is actually going to do. I think she will put Maya out to the right. I think if not Lotte Wubben-Moy, I think it's probably going to be Esme Morgan in the middle. I don't see anyone else really slotting in there. I think Jess Carter's going to be phased out. I think she's done a great job whilst Leah and Millie haven't been a part of it, but I think there's too many better defenders now that they're back. It's not. Here's the thing with Jess Carter: she really picks her days, and I've been infuriated by Jess Carter for so many years, because again, like Lotte, you can see the defensive quality she has, but there's like something that doesn't quite click. And when you have Leah, Millie, Esme, whoever, that I think Jess Carter just doesn't get in that team to me. So yeah, can't remember what the question is that you asked me, Meg, but hopefully I've answered it with my big long waffle.
Laura, you also said Lotte. Obviously, over the past year, Arsenal's defensive mismatches because of injuries has been all over the place, which has allowed Lotte to get a lot more game time than she probably would have anticipated. But that's really aided her development in sort of a really short space of time. So surely it is time for her to start really getting game time under Sarina.
Yeah, I think, as Mia said, she's been around the squad, which makes me think that, like, if Sarina had only seen her as kind of a solution to filling that squad, she wouldn't have made every single one of them, but she has. She's always been that, like, whether it's the 23rd player, she's always been in them. And I think that means that Sarina sees something in her, sees some kind of potential. And I think there's in the chat, they're talking a bit about, like, big errors, but it's like she should have developed out of them. But if you look at who she's had to play alongside over the past year or so, the partners she's played with have consistently changed. Like, she has not had any consistency. She's played alongside Leah, she's played alongside Rafa, she's played again alongside Ilestedt recently, and even Kadina and Beatty at times. So that's so many people that she's had to play alongside. I completely disagree with that. I love Lotte Wubben-Moy. Like, as a person, even off the pitch, like, she is the best footballer off the pitch, which is obviously not coming into this. But I do love her as a person. And I do think that does translate onto the pitch in terms of how much effort she puts into it and how much she kind of, like, respects that kind of process and her mentality on it. And I think that the way she's going to improve, because we've seen her improve so much in just a year's time, the way she's going to improve, if she's playing consistently alongside Williamson at club, it's just going to be so good as a pairing on the pitch. I think that's why I picked it. I think as well, she is strong in the air, Lotte Wubben-Moy. So I think she does bring that slightly different pairing. I know they're both quite on the ball players, but I think Maya Le Tissier is also a very similar profile to Williamson. So if you're talking about that in terms of pairings, I think, I'm not talking about, I completely admit that it's not personality, but I'm just saying I do like their personality. I wouldn't pick a player just on their personality, but I think Sarina Wiegman does take that into account a little bit in terms of how do you want to build a squad that's going to play together well on the pitch. Everyone's probably said what I'd say in terms of why I think she deserves a place, but I do think it will be interesting to see. I do think it will be Williamson, Wubben-Moy, and Le Tissier maybe on the right.
Well, we are going to now go on to the player at the right, and I've had a few different names for this, but Barry, you've said someone whose name is already on there. So talk to me about why Niamh Charles would go in at left back for you.
This question in 5 words: because she's a left back, and that would be it. Like, you put left backs, square peg, square holes. Simple as that. Again, I feel like the fullbacks are our weakest position for the whole squad, to be honest with you. I can't sit here and say that I feel like Niamh Charles has been amazing. She's going to be 27 by the time the World Cup rolls around. Hopefully she will have grown as a player and be even better and be more settled. But yeah, I mean, the idea of Niamh Charles playing at right back just sends me out into a bit of a cold sweat, because I don't think she's striker as well. She's not Rachel Daly, but yeah, why not? But yeah, I mean, for me, that's what you need to do, is you need to make sure you put in players in the right position. I do feel, like I say, that May is going to end up being pushed out at right back, which I don't think is right either, because she'll be playing as a centre-back for Manchester United. So again, we're just in a situation where we're putting players in the wrong position. For me, if we're talking about a dream England 11, the absolute dream would be that we find ourselves a decent left back, and Onabatye finds a English passport somewhere and we get to play her right back. That's the best dream I think I can come up with at the moment, because I think aside from that, left back and right back are going to be our big problems moving into the World Cup. So it'll be interesting to see how we get on in the Euros. Ask me the same question again in sort of 12 months' time. We might have a bit more of a settled lineup. But for me, at the minute, they would be my worries.
I'm just going to bring this up I'm sorry if this offends anyone, but apparently our ball knowledge is horrible. Connor, you've given a name that has, not been mentioned at all, but kind of been...
you're going to love this.
Floated around, should be in the England squad, and I've always rated her. I think she definitely should be in the England setup, whether she regularly starts or whether she's a squad player. Please, could you tell us who you've gone for at left back, Connor?
Yes, before I do, talking about our ball knowledge, Niamh Charles is in this team. Like, she's in. She is one of the best fullback and has been this season. No one's disputing that. And to be fair, Meg, I think you are going to have to probably move Charles to left back, and because I have a feeling. But yeah, Sand Devil's on my wavelength. Maz Pacheco, she's been spoken about around and to be fair, I think she's at that point now where if she's not picked for the next camp, she probably will change allegiances to the Philippines, which has been spoken about for a while as well, because she can do that. Because she can't keep waiting around for an international call-up that's potentially not going to happen. But the reason I think everyone else went for Charles at left back, I put Charles at right back for this very reason, because I just purely wanted to mention Pacheco in the 11. And the only way of doing that was putting Charles at right back. I accept Charles is definitely a better left back, certainly at the moment, than Maz Pacheco, but I wanted to try and squeeze them in and just throw Maz in there. That's not taken away from Maz. As I said, I put her in there for a reason. I think she's one of the best fullbacks in the league, and it's baffling to me, by the way, that she's not getting into that Villa team right now. Like, they deserve to be losing for not playing her, in my opinion, but there we go. Yeah, Patterson's another one. I don't rate her as highly, I guess, as other people, but if I was choosing one or the other, it would be Maz over Patterson any day. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Like I said, it's a real fullback is a tough one because of the right back and because of what Barry was just saying a second ago. It comes back to what this team is, I guess, isn't it? Because it's like what we all think by the sounds of listening to you all is that Mayer will go to right back. That's what we think is probably going to happen here. I just don't want that to happen because that's not where she wants to play. It's not her. Like, I want to see her there alongside Williamson as is currently on screen. But the problem with that, who do you then put a right back? Unless you're going down the Evie Rabjon, maybe something like the young. I'm trying to think of youngsters that are fullbacks. I can't think of any other.
Well, it's funny you say Evie Rabjon because someone has actually put Evie Rabjon in their Dream 11. Jess, what's your reasoning for Evie Rabjon? Obviously, she's made quite a few appearances for the under-19s. So have you been impressed with her performances?
I'll be completely honest, I just did not think there was really anyone else. So I thought, why not give someone completely kind of out left field a chance? 4 years on, you know, she's going to be wanting to break into this team. She's represented Evie, she represented England at all levels so far. Her performance has been really good. Obviously, she was highly sought after. United luckily signed her. So to be honest with you, Meg, when I sent you the team list, it was either going to be Evie Rabjon or me, because I'm also half backing myself to make a little comeback. But I thought that was even more stupid. So
yeah, if you're picking people on personalities, I'd pick Jess at right back.
Thank you.
100%.
So really, that comment, to be fair, is pretty sound. Really, she is going to be on the young side, so it will be a bit of a miracle. But I don't see it's any less likely than our other options. I know we do have other players there, like Con's mentioned Pacheco, but there's just no one that shouts out at me in comparison to the rest of the team. You know, I think we're absolutely stacked in other positions, especially going forward. So I do think that is a position that we want to start looking at now.
Mia, I'm just pulling this up. No shouts for Gabby George at left back. What do you think to that comment?
Absolutely love Gabby George. I think she has had such a horrible run with injuries throughout her career. And, you know, had she not have those issues, I imagine she probably would have already been there. She does get overlooked, 100%. We need to see her come back from this ACL. It really depends, because some players come back, Beth Mead, and they are straight. They pick it right back up again from where they left off. Some players, this might be controversial. Alexi Putellas is yet to show any sort of signs. That's a lie, but she's not to the level that she was before. Like, we need to see Gabby back and playing consistently before. If she plays with the form that she started this season with, absolutely should have a shout. 100. How old is Gabby George?
That's a good question.
Because she must.
I think
she's might. She's 26. She's 26.
Oh, right. She's a lot older than I would think.
Right, fair enough. Well, yeah, in which case, I did forget Gabby George because she was injured, but yeah, she would be a good call.
And Laurie,
when you talk about Gabby George, though, for me on that left back, and just going back to what our mate here, the cheerleader for Neve Charles's fan club, again, people aren't saying that they're bad. I've tried to pick my team based on people that I have seen over many years, over a few years, giving good performances, not just people that have performed quite well for a season. Hence why Emily Ramsey wasn't my choice for goalkeeper. One season does not a swallow make. So, listen, if Niamh Charles plays like she's been playing over the last season and a bit for the next 3 seasons, brilliant, whack her in at left back. But unfortunately, Mystic Meg is hosting, not taking part today. So, who knows?
To be fair, if I was, I would have probably put Niamh Charles at left back as well. So, because we don't have many options. Rachel Daly isn't going to be playing left back, is she? So, unfortunately, not anyway. But Laura, you went for Niamh Charles at left back. It's she's one of the only really reliable options at the minute, I guess.
Yeah, it seems so. I think Gabby George will be 30 by that World Cup. So with her injuries, does she get back in form? Does she get in the squad? I'm not sure. I think you're taking players who are 30 to be there because they have good experience at that level, and I don't think she has that. So I think that's why she doesn't get in, because you're compromising pace, or you're compromising some element of that kind of youth to have the experience, to have the tactical nous there. And whilst Gabby George has the experience at domestic level, she doesn't have that in international tournaments. So I think that's why she doesn't get in there. And Niamh Charles, she's playing for England now. She's looked so good this season. And yeah, I genuinely think she will be our left back in 2027. Who knows what will happen, but I do believe that she will be there, and I think she is improved. I guess the thing that would potentially hamper her is that she's not going to be, at the moment you look at Chelsea and you go, well, they're going to be under the stewardship of Emma Hayes and they're only going to improve. But we don't know who her coach will be. We don't know what tactics they'll use, where they'll use their players. So I guess that little bit of uncertainty is maybe a factor and something to consider. But currently, yeah, I'd put Niamh Charles probably as left back right now. I think Jess Carter, this season especially, if you're just going off kind of recent form, as we seem to be doing with Niamh Charles, Jess Carter is so mistake prone this season. Every game that I've been to see Chelsea play, Jess Carter has had a howler. So I think she had a great World Cup, but it's one World Cup, and yeah, I don't see her being in there. I put not Charles ahead of her. So yeah, definitely Charles at left back for me.
Yeah, so I think with this back line, I think we are going to have to shove Maya Letitia into that right back position. Sorry, Maya, I know you don't want to play there. And I think we're going to have to go for our Arsenal centre-back pairing of Williamson and Wubben-Moy. Whether that will actually be the case in 3 years to come, we'll find out. But moving on to the midfield, it was the easiest part. Everyone gave me the same 3 people. So Barry, we'll start with Kira Walsh. I mean, she'll be 29, I think, when 2027 rolls around. She's still going to be at the top of her game, isn't she?
She is. I mean, that's not quite true, is it, Meg? I did send you those 3 names, but I also put some asterisks next to some names on that one.
You did?
I did. Georgia Stanway was the only one who I nailed down and said that's 100% one that's going to be there. I have put Kira Walsh. She didn't have the best World Cup for me. I was not overjoyed. And if that's the start of the decline of Kira Walsh, we had one earlier on where you asked Connor why he wanted May Letitia, and he went, because I love May Letitia and I just want to see her on the side. There's a little part of me would love to see Katie Zellum. Would just love to. Genuinely, I feel like she deserves it. She's one of those who's unlucky, because if there was no such person as Kira Walsh, I feel like we'd have seen a lot more of Katie Zellum in an England shirt. So there's the sentimental part of me that goes with that. But before anybody starts, just in case she's got a fan club as well, of course, Kira Walsh would start ahead of Katie Zellum, and Katie would tell you that herself. And I did put Clinton, but I did also, don't start with me, TJ. We have this conversation every bleeding time. Katie Zellum can play anywhere in that midfield. Let's stop having the argument. I also put Ella Toone down for Clinton because I think that although Clinton's been amazing, again, we're talking about over time, I have definitely. Oh, this guy's somewhere else. I would definitely put Toone in as the first one because Clinton has only done it for the last sort of year, really, showing some really good performances. Again, a bit like Niamh Charles, she does the same for 2 or 3 years. Then Ella Toone might have to look over her shoulder. But at the moment, without that, I would still be going with Ella Toone. But yes, like TJ says, the trajectory does feel higher. So, yeah.
Connor, you went for the same 3. Stanway has been pretty mediocre for you. Do you agree with that comment?
To be honest, she's suffering. And I hate saying this word. I think she's suffering a little bit of burnout. To be honest, I was speaking to a few Bayern fans the other day. Bayern have played pretty much the same midfield and attack for pretty much every single game they've played this season. And bearing in mind they're in the Champions League, they're playing twice a week. They're cup competitions as well. I think Stanway's fearing a little bit of that, and obviously last season as well, which obviously did the same. Stanway's playing pretty much every single minute of football for club, then for country as well. So I think there's a little bit of that. I agree. I don't think she's been at her best. I agree with that to a point. I don't think she has. But like I said, we're looking at this from 3 years' time. I think I agree with what the comment we're just saying. I think Clinton's ceiling, as we're seeing it right now, is incredibly high. So I think by the time we get to 2027, I think Clinton will be in there. I think she will eclipse the other players in that position. Frank Kirby's not going to be in the conversation when we get to 2027. Ella Toone, I think Clinton will be a better player than Tooney by the time we get to that point. And Kira Walsh for me is it's Kira Walsh. She's the best midfielder in the world, alongside Bon Matty and so on. So, yeah, I don't think there's any too much argument there. Yeah, I've got nothing really to add. I think that's the midfield, isn't it? It's those 3. And you could potentially argue Toone or Clinton. Or somebody did put it in the chat earlier. I can't remember where it is, though. We're going to talk about it, I'm sure, when we talk about it, that one. Lauren James is potentially the other one instead of Clinton, and drop Clinton to Stanway's position and put James in the 10 where she's been playing for Chelsea as well. To be fair, James has played everywhere for Chelsea, so you could probably play her anywhere. And she did play her for England a bit as well. But no, I would stick with that 3.
Jess, Stanway, is that a given for you? Obviously, she's produced some magic moments in an England shirt. The goal against Spain stands out for me.
Yes, absolutely. And I would like to point out that she's just been rated player of the match in the Bayern game that was literally just happening just now. So I'd also agree with Connor that she's probably had a little bit of burnout recently. And I think we also do need to remember that this is theoretical for 3 years' time. So her current performances for Bayern aren't, so relevant. We're looking at it as more of a overall picture. So yeah, for me, she's easy in the team. I think, again, she's 25 now, maybe. She's probably just now, she's still not quite in her peak, so she's still got a little bit more to go, I reckon. I think playing over in Europe is doing her a lot of good, other than maybe the burnout. So yeah, that midfield 3, you're not going to get rid of Walsh, unless something absolutely awful happens, which I hope to God it doesn't. She is just an incredible player, little wizard, basically. You can't get rid of her. And Grace Clinton just has so much potential. It physically pained me, actually, not to put Ella Toone in this side. But like Connor said, I do just think with Grace Clinton's potential, we're not even close to seeing the best out of her. She's just going to keep getting better and better for the next however many years. So yeah, for me, that midfield was actually fairly easy to pick, really.
Mia, you're a massive fan of Grace Clinton. Obviously, she's had a really good season so far. Do you think being part of the England setup on a regular basis will really aid her development?
Yeah, of course. I think the opportunity for her to go out to be, Spurs' best player, I think a lot of credit has to go to United on that front, because when you're sending out those kind of players on loan, you have to make sure it's the right club to aid their development, and they've done just that, and it's suited her down to the ground. The one thing I'm thinking of, and this might be controversial, with Clinton, is we've seen her quality for a couple of years. She's young. She's still, 20? the one thing I have with Clinton at the minute that's making me doubt it slightly is we've only seen one full season of WSL football from her. Are we jumping on a bound? We're not even all the way through the season yet. We're nearly there. She's been quality. She has been class. She is one of my favourite players in the league. And I have no doubt she'll be around the squad. Will she start? I don't know, because we haven't seen enough of her yet in that position. Again, she is only 20. Does she stay at United next year? Does she get another loan? It all really depends on what happens next for her. I would, as I say, you can see her quality. You know what she's got. I would love for her to be there. And if her trajectory keeps going as she is playing at the minute, then she'll be. I've written down in my notes, I have no doubt that she's going to be one of the best midfielders in the world. She's very Stanway-esque to me. When Stanway first come onto the scene and everyone was like, oh my god, she's scoring goals from like outside of the box, and just, yeah. So hopefully hopefully she is there, but I'm just throwing that controversy out there, which apparently doesn't seem very controversial. Yeah, Kira Walsh, I'm not taking any Kira Walsh slander. She's playing with the best players in the world for the best team in the world, and she is, I think when she gets to the 2027 World Cup, she's going to be 29. So again, she's in my team. There is no one who's reached their 30s, so this is still a fresh team that's like gone through that transition period, but there's still like some youth coming through, and there's some people going. That would be Kira Walsh's third World Cup, and you need stuff like that when you're in a World Cup. That's what makes things tick. We saw it with Jill Scott and Ellen White at the Euros. Yeah, that was a really long way around saying that, but yeah, like Grace Clinton, need to see more of her. Kira Walsh, don't doubt her. She's the best. She didn't have a good World Cup, but she also got injured pretty early on, and I don't know if that took a mental toll on her. But yeah, no doubts for any of those. Thank you.
Laura, I'm just going to bring this comment up. Oh, not that one. That is the wrong one. About Williamson playing in that, in that centre mid role instead of Walsh. What do you make of that? Obviously, we have seen her play in that position, and I mean, I couldn't fault her when Sarina played her in that position.
Yeah, when she's in that position, she did a cheeky back heel and freed them on and put it top bin. So I love Leah Williamson in that position. But I think 29-year-old Leah Williamson will be a defender. I think you tend to move down the pitch with age. I mean, you tend to not move by that period anyway when you're playing at this level. But I don't think you're going to be moving up the field at that age. I think Leah Williamson's, like 26 now. I think if she was going to stay there, I think she'd have played there a little bit more often. Obviously, we have seen that experiment, but Kira Walsh doesn't need replacing. Like, Kira Walsh is the best in that position. Just look at the highlights from the Euros and just be reminded of how good she is. Watch Barcelona. She is so good. And I also think Kira Walsh is one of those players where her play is not reliant on pace at all. Like, she reads the game so well. She is already in position. She is already seeing those runs. She plays quite like a game that doesn't rely on that. That's only going to get better with age, you feel. And I think that is so exciting. And I think touching on what Mia was saying in terms of like how that midfield looks so good. And even if you swap Clinton with James, maybe, because I think it depends where Sarina Wiegman sees James's best position and whether she sees like the players 9 and 10 on here as needing, like, how she wants to fill them. I think James gets in ahead of Clinton if Sarina sees James as a number 10. But I put Clinton because I wanted them both in there and I wanted to talk about some different names. But I think you look at that midfield and you're thinking they should be over 30 by now. Like, look at the experience that they have. By 2027, you're thinking they have to be over 30, but they're not. And I think that's what's so exciting for this England team. Yeah, I think it's super exciting. And I wouldn't have Williamson in that sixth role just because I don't think that's where she's going to progress to. I think she'll be playing more consistently as a centre back with Arsenal. I think she only got moved up because of potentially injury problems and some doubts there around Arsenal. I don't think we had Kim Little at that time. So I think she'll definitely stay in the centre back. I'd also want Williamson in centre back, so I wouldn't want to move her up the pitch either. I wouldn't want to replace Walsh. And I just think that midfield is so exciting for England.
I completely agree. You just can't replace Walsh, can you? And Leah at centre back is just a given, really. Well, we move on to the front three, and I'm going to just list the names that I've been given and then ask you all to sort of give me where you'd put each of your players that you've given me. I've got Lauren James. I think everyone said Lauren James, but you've all put her in different positions. We've got Beth Mead, Chloe Kelly, Aggie Beaver-Jones, Alessia Russo, and Lauren Hent. So, Barry, I'm going to start with you. Who were your front three, and where have you put each of your players?
Yeah. Okay. It was Chloe Kelly or Beth Mead on the right for me. I was struggling with that. Meadow would be 31 at this point. But again, I still feel like you need that experience, and I think that she would be the one to provide that. I think you look at the likes of Ellen White and Jill Scott and what they brought to the side. Having somebody who's been there, done that is vital. So I would be more tempted, providing Beth continues her rehabilitation and still comes back as strong as she has been in the past, then I would give it to Beth Mead. If not, then I would give it to Chloe Kelly. So I think Meadow would be my number one. I then put Lauren James at left forward because I want Toon or Clinton in the 10. It's the answer to that. I just think that we're going to be a better side for it. Hemp's good, but she runs hot and cold for me, whereas Lauren James at the moment is just on fire. I think as I think it was Connor said, you can put her anywhere along the front three. She's still going to have just as much impact. And to be fair, if you've got a decent front line, they can switch about and be fluid and do all of the things they need to do. So I would go with Lauren James left forward. And I confess I was the one who put Leslie Russo there as well. And purely because Nikita Paris will probably be too old by then.
Connor, it's a bit like the battle of the Laurens at the minute. Lauren Hemp, Lauren James, they're both absolutely incredible players, still both so young. Are they both in your front three?
Oh, see, I don't want to change my mind. I'm trying to talk myself out of changing my mind because this whole Lauren James in number 10 thing is kind of pushing me more towards like, would I put Clinton in Stanway's position, James in where Clinton is, and then put Beaver-Jones as 9 because she's not in my 3. My 3, I mean, Hemp for me has to be on the left. I put James down the middle for that reason because James has got to be in there somewhere, and then I put Kelly off the right based on that. But then like what Barry's saying with me, like 31's not old, not ridiculously old anyway. You mentioned obviously with the Euros, you need that bit of experience as well. You can't just have an all youngster team and hope to go on and win it. You need that bit of experience in there as well. So what I think it will be is Hemp, Russo, and Mead with James behind. I'll stick to my guns. I'll say James as 9, Hemp on the left, and Kelly on the right. But it's not going to be that. Let's be real. Yeah, it's a real tough one. Beaver-Jones could get there. Again, it's a tough one because we're only just starting to see what she can... It's a similar thing with Clinton, isn't it? It's like we're just seeing now what potential she could get to. I agree with you, TJ. I think by 2027, Beaver-Jones could surpass Russo. I think Beaver-Jones, again, a ceiling is higher, but we don't know that. Potential is something we don't know whether they're going to fulfill it or not. So I'll stick with the players that I know can still do it in 3 years' time, and that's Hemp, James, and Kelly.
Jess, I believe you were someone who said Aggie Beaver-Jones to take up the number 9 role. How impressive have you been with her at Chelsea so far this season, and how far can she go?
I think, like we were saying, very similar to Clinton. At this point, we have no idea. I think her potential is absolutely huge. My front 3, I feel like, in fact, I said to you, Meg, when I sent them over, my front 4 really was just chaos. I had no idea where anyone was going to go. So I will just list off vaguely where I think they might fit. So I've got Lauren Hemp on the left. Obviously, I think she's pretty solid, absolute shoo-in. Already performing incredibly well. Obviously, like linked to Barcelona. I then put LJ through the middle, striker. Don't know really whether she'd be better in Clinton's position, but Clinton is currently in Clinton's position, so for ease of this, she's just going as my striker. And then I put Aggie Beaver-Jones out on the right, because again, I just didn't know where to put all these people and I was getting stressed. So I think Beaver-Jones just has so much potential. She made it into my team just because I gave a few young people a spot, because I just think 2027 is a long way away. And I just hope that some of these players continue to like perform as they are doing. You know, we've said that it's a bit soon maybe to know for sure. We're still early days in the season, but I think the ceiling for these players is ridiculous. They really could go on and kind of be top quality, world class. Like I'm thinking, I'm going to go as far as saying like Ballon d'Or challenging players here. So yeah, that is my front three.
Just very quickly, Meg. Sorry, just off the back of what Jess was just saying there. If there's a big if Lauren Hemp goes to Barcelona, I think she will be in contention for the Ballon d'Or, because the numbers she will put up in that Barca team will be ridiculous. And she's literally, I forgot how young she's still only 23. Like we're talking 3 years, she's gonna be 26, coming up to the prime. Yeah, she goes to Barca, she'll be taking the absolute mick out of that league and that team.
Interesting comment here. Sarina would still start Russo even if Beaver-Jones scored 30 goals in a season. Mia, what do you make of that? Would Russo still be the starting striker in 2027?
Yeah, I'm going to sound like I'm just copying what Connor's just said, but I promise you I've written this down before he said it. Yeah, I do think Russo... Let me tell you my front three and then I'll explain why. So I went Hemp on the left, Russo down the middle, and James on the right. I think this might be controversial, but James, I mean, my goodness, she's, again, ridiculous talent anyway. I've written down here, she's going to have a Ballon d'Or before 2027. She'll have that in her locker. However, I think her football is more exciting when she can cut in, because as soon as she cuts in and she takes a shot, it's going in, and that's where I find her most exciting. I know she can play wherever you put her because she's just that kind of player, but yeah, to me she excites me the most when she's on that right. Hemp, again, I love her in the WSL as a WSL fan and you know, a fan of the league. I am glad that she's here, but equally as an England fan and wanting her to be, you know, the best player that she can be, I would snap Barca's arm off for that move. And yeah, she would be absolutely unplayable, I think, if she moved to Barcelona. So that would be a really interesting one. And then Russo was, again, going back to the fact that I thought we were building the starting 11 rather than dream start 11, because again, a lot of talk about Aggie Beaver-Jones, but we only know her from a couple of games this season, and don't get me wrong, her statistics are through the roof when you talk about her goals per minutes and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. I think she needs a loan, and I think with Ramirez in now, when Kerr comes back, I think she'll naturally be pushed out, and I think that she'll have to sign for a different club, whether that be European. I think it's best for her that she does go out and just show like Clinton's doing, show people what she's actually made of for 90 minutes week in, week out. I would love to see her as a number 9. Again, she really excites me, and that's a nice prospect that we've got a young, clinical striker coming through. But I think you give Russo a couple more seasons at Arsenal, with the players that they've got around her, and you know the way that she's sort of settled in really nicely at Arsenal. Her build-up play, the ability to play off the wingers, and I'm not being funny. If you've got Hemp and James either side of you, you're pretty much sorted. And Alessia Russo is not the most clinical striker in the world. Don't get me wrong, but she knows where the goal is, and I think she does more than just score goals and that. So that's why I have put those three in, and I think whatever front three we have, we've got. This is where England are stacked. Their attack is so stacked. So you could put an argument forward for loads of people. I've missed out Chloe Kelly. Oh, I'm not going to list loads because I can't remember. But anyway, that's mine. Move on.
We certainly are spoilt for choice attacking wise. I think we have been for quite a few years. I think at the Euros we were as well. Laura, who have you gone for your front three?
I'm annoyed at myself for not putting Mead in now, but I did draw a little bench and put her on it because I couldn't leave her off my paper completely. So I put on right wing, I put Lauren James, left wing, Lauren Hemp, and then I went for ABJ up front. I thought I used my Arsenal quota in going for a Williamson Woman Moy centre back pairing, so I wanted to go a bit different. So yeah, I think what is more likely and what I think has been reflected in the panel already is you've got Russo. I don't think she's a similar player to Ellen White, but I think she'll play the Ellen White role from the Euros in the sense that she'll be the starting one, and then Aggie Beever-Jones can come on as the player that actually scores and like as that forward, that impact sub, the finisher, if you like. I think. So I see that as probably being the more realistic setup for 2027. But Aggie Beever-Jones has just been like dynamite when she's come on for Chelsea. She looks like having such promise, and I think given we're doing a dream 11 and just having those players kind of being around, I've seen Lauren James up front and I didn't like it. I think she's so much more effective when she's not leading the line and she's playing off and making those runs in behind. So yeah, I'd love to see her coming off the right for this starting lineup. So yeah, I mean Lauren Hemp is just self-explanatory, and I think everyone's kind of gone through that sufficiently already. But yeah, Lauren Hemp for me is nailed on starting. I think I'd love to have Mead in there. I think maybe what it's more likely, a likely looking 11 for me would be James at number 10, Mead at right wing, Russo to start up front, and then Beever-Jones to come on as a sub. But my front three were Hemp, Beever-Jones, and then James on the right as a dream, like what 2027 could look like if everyone progresses at the rate that they are currently.
Well, I'm glad that Hemp was sort of, one of the easiest names in the lineup for everyone. We've got a couple of names for player 11 and player 10. Feel like a couple of you have said Lauren James out on the right as she operates better in a wing position. And is everyone happy with putting Russo in that striker position if she continues to perform?
LJ's got to be somewhere along that three.
Yeah,
I think that has to be a case. To be honest with you, I was happy to put Russo at number 11, but Imara's starting to wind me up now, so there's a very strong chance that I might change my mind entirely and put somebody else there. So I would actually now be more akin to stick Lauren James in the central role with Beth Mead out on the right, just because people should perhaps be, when I'm being nice about people, I do my impartial bit when I'm on this channel, because that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. And I'm capable of doing it, believe it or not. And, I would go Russo, but the rate that we're going at now, I've changed my mind, because as she's rightly said, she doesn't score goals. And what's the point of a number 9 that don't score goals? So let's have Lauren James in there who scores them by the bag.
I can't believe Kelly's not making this team.
What?
It's so hard between Mead and Kelly. I mean, people that didn't say Mead or Kelly, who would you ultimately go for out of the
Beth
two?
Mead does not start in this team. If Beth Mead is going to be I'm not being funny. In the Euros, we had Jill Scott, we had Ellen White, but rarely did those two start. They were on the bench and they were there.
Ellen White started everyone.
Ellen White started everyone.
No. Okay, we'll talk about Jill Scott then. Jill Scott then. I don't see
I do agree with what Sarina is saying, and she's saying it badly, but I do think in a right wing position, you would probably go for the more youthful player, which in this case would be Chloe Kelly. So yeah, in a roundabout way, I do agree with Mia and think Kelly should probably start over Mead.
I'm just going to pull this one up. This makes me chuckle. Barry on my third fave. Sorry, Mia and Megan are top. I'll take that.
No, I've just responded to that in the chat, and it is in. I mean, I feel like I'm drunk writing this out. I don't know what's happened to my laptop, but it's missed out letters of all sorts. I can promise it was only Tizer I've been drinking. But yeah, I'm just impressed. I'm not her sixth fave. So
I think just in regards to the team, Meg, I think this is where we need to decide: is this what we want to see happen, or what we think is going to happen? Because that will change who I think what that front three should be for me. Because I think the team at the moment is probably a bit of. I'd say most of them are what we think is going to happen as well as what we want.
Yeah,
but
I think
like mine's two different things. Because what I think will happen, it will be Mead, but I want Kelly.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone just said Mead will be 32 at the next World Cup. I don't know if that's correct, but
Can I just add quickly? There's no striker in that front three. Lauren James isn't a striker.
well,
James
that's
should
what
be up there.
Hemp can be a striker, but again, that's shoehorning her in. Kelly isn't a striker.
yeah, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What do you want to see on this?
My front three is Hemp, Russo, and James.
Right,
See,
I'm happy to do whatever Mia's doing.
that's what I would go for, but I was trying to work around people's
I'm
people
not
saying
I'd be
really
happy with
upset.
goals.
I did say Russo, so I'm happy.
I think that's probably about fair, but I think Beaver Jones, if she carries on, will be better than Russo by the time we get to 27.
100%. And I would actually really like that to happen because I think to watch Aggie Beaver Jones play, to me, she looks like a better player than Russo at this time at her age. I don't know.
But Alan makes a good point. For you two are the Arsenal fans, Megan. Hasn't Russo been playing as the 10 for Arsenal?
She has, to be fair, but obviously,
Or has she been playing the 9?
Meadham have been playing the 10 and then Russo the 9. But they've kind of been swapping. Like, it's very fluid.
But I couldn't see Russo playing as a 10 in this squad when you've got so many 10s available. So if you're going to play her, you're obviously going to play her at striker. Otherwise, she's not going to play.
It's just getting into the mind of Sarina, who is a stickler for the same thing. So I imagine she brought Russo in relatively young, introduced her to this team. She's not done horrendously for England. She's not been, the top goal scorer or anything. But again, my reasonings as to why I think Sarina's going to pick her is her hold-up play that she's doing really well at the minute for Arsenal, even though she's not playing that 10 role or whatever. That's part of her game. That's what she would do at United. She'd come deep to pick the ball up and then spray it wide. And I think if you've got Hemp or James, even Kelly, but again, Kelly is more of a super sub. She showed that during the Euros. She showed that. I'm not gonna knock myself off. But anyway, yeah, I think that's what we're gonna see rather than dream. Because if we're dreaming, as I say, I'd rather have Beaver Jones through the middle. But realistically, I think that's what it's gonna look like.
We've got a question here. Didn't Sarina bench Russo in the Nations League? I can't remember who she tended to start in the Nations League. Did she start Daly or?
I feel like she's not really been set on a striker. Like, I don't think either Russo or Daly have been completely convincing. And I think that was an issue. We sort of went into the World Cup without having like a set striker. So
it was Hemp, by the way. It was Hemp. It was a Hemp James Mead, or a Hemp Kelly Mead, or a Hemp Russo Kelly. Like, it changed.
It's been changed a lot. If you compare that to kind of the Euros, where it was every game like Ellen White would start, Russo would then come on. After that, like, we've not necessarily nailed down even now an absolute out and out starting striker. So I think that's why it's difficult to pick one for 3 years' time, because we don't really have one cemented now.
32.
33, yeah, she was 94 she was born, so I'm just pleased she's not even in the conversation, because I've been saying for years that Russo's better than Beth England, so
she's
just
not.
say
Okay.
When I went to the World Cup, I went to a couple of games with a massive Beth England fan. So every time that Beth England came on for however many minutes she did, it was like the best thing in the world to happen. But yeah, I just can't see how she makes much of an impact on the current England side. Anyway, I think her time's past really. But as teams go, I think that is realistic as to what we might see come 2027. It seems like so long away, but actually 3 years isn't far away at all if you think about it. You've only got a Euros and then you've got the World Cup to think about it. So ultimately, it's not far away at all. So I'm just gonna end by sort of basically asking everyone, what does success look like for the Lionesses under Sarina? And is it a World Cup win and a Euros win? Barry, what do the Lionesses need to do to ultimately stay at the top of their game as one of the best footballing nations in the women's game?
I'm a much more pragmatic sort of person. There's a lot of people that have a go at Gareth Southgate. I mean, I saw somebody say we got a wet wipe for a men's manager, and I think we're just harsh. We're so harsh in this country on some of our players and in the teams and in the clubs and in the countries. It's mad. Actually, Gareth Southgate has taken the England men to a place where they haven't been in like almost 60 years, like the closest to getting a trophy. And I say that because I think that matters as well with Sarina Wiegman, because there's only a competition every 2 years. And when you're in that sort of situation, therefore winning stuff, it's at a premium. It's not like, the WSL, the Conti Cup, the FA Cup, where you got 3 goes a year to try and win something and there's only 12 teams there to go up against. You're in a much bigger situation where actually you're trying to compete against the best nations in the world. And there are some really good ones. They are all starting to take it much more seriously in some other countries as well. And we are seeing the standard rise. And I think that really matters. So for me, success is just being there or thereabouts. It's, again, like in tennis, players don't win it every single time, but they're always there or thereabouts. So in the semi-finals, they might be losing to each other and beating each other at different points during the seasons. And I think that's kind of where we need to be. If we're up there constantly up against the Spains and the likes of that, and the USAs when it comes to the World Cup, if we're in those situations, then we're already going to be one of the best teams. So for me, success is just competing, not doing what we did in the Nations League, where we just capitulated. And for what it's worth, you all had that chat about the Olympics. I think it is still disgraceful. They need to sort out a better way than trying to get Great Britain to purely go through on England. To me, it's entirely disrespectful to the other nations just because they might have less people playing in it or fewer people playing in it. I think it's irrelevant. They need to find a better way to sort that out. And that's not just because you didn't make it, it's just because it's not right. If you're a Scottish person right now, you're probably sat there going, well, bloody England. It's always them. And rightly so. So I don't like that. But yeah, for me, success is just competing. And as long as we do that, I'll be a very happy boy.
Connor, the Lionesses, they've got the Euros, they've got the World Cup. Do they need to win both for the next 3 years to be considered a success, or will the World Cup just be the cherry on top?
It depends what success and being content, I guess. I agree with Barry. I think they certainly need to be competing. England need to be in the latter stages of tournaments. So for the Euros, certainly into the final, I think. But teams are getting better, as Barry just said. Germany are not going to be as bad as they were at the last World Cup. They're improved. They've got a lot of youngsters. There's nations like Italy are getting stronger, Portugal are getting stronger. There's teams like that. Look, USA under Emma Hayes, as somebody's already mentioned in the chat as well. These teams are not going to be as bad as they were at the previous World Cup. And you only have a chance to win the World Cup, like I said, every 4 years anyway. So you got one shot. It feels a bit harsh to pin all of that on one go. If you don't win, it's a failure. I don't see it as that. So success for England is probably just like Barry just said. It's staying in the mix or staying in the conversation of the top teams in the world. If England have a poor Euros and drop away, let's say they get knocked out the quarterfinals or something like that, quarterfinals of the World Cup, that I think is big regression, so to speak. And that's when you can start looking at Sarina going, right, okay, maybe something's not right here. But it's just gonna get harder, with the teams that are emerging, the youngsters that are coming through in these various different nations. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she wants the World Cup, isn't it? I think if she wins the Euros again, it'd be great, but it's not something that she hasn't already done. So for her, yeah, it's all on the wall. It's like Emma Hayes with the Champions League, isn't it? She needs that Champions League to complete the set at Chelsea. Sarina almost needs this World Cup with England now to complete the set, almost for England. So that would be the ultimate success. But if England don't win it in 27, I don't think it's a failure. It depends how it goes, in terms of, whether it's an early knockout or whether it's a final loss. Because let's not forget, that Spanish side is ridiculously young as well. The players that Spain have got, come flash forward to them in 3 years' time. Geez, nearly their whole squad that played in that final are going to be in their prime pretty much, barring one or two. So it's going to be tough. So yeah, I don't think it's a failure if England don't win it, but they should be aiming for finals and last stage of tournaments.
Laura, what do you think Sarina's biggest challenge will be in the next 3 years? Will it be squad selection? Will it be other teams improving? What do you reckon will be the biggest challenge she faces in the next 3 years?
Yeah, I think you can look at it two ways. I think you can see the biggest, a unique point in women's football in the sense that we're seeing like an exponential, not just growth, but increase in ability because of all the extra support that we're seeing being put in, which is absolutely great to see. And we're seeing it become so much more competitive, and that's going to translate at an international level. So I think, the competition's only going to get stronger, and the look of a tournament is not going to be the same potentially in 2027 because you're going to have a group stage, which is suddenly a lot tougher than perhaps you would have expected 4, 8, 12 years ago. But I think Sarina Wiegman's approach to that will be, my players are only getting better as well because they're being tested against better players. The quality of the WSL will go up. The quality of all these leagues will go up. So I don't think that will necessarily, I don't think she'll necessarily consider that as, this is something I need to combat myself. This is a challenge for me. I think that will just be the changing nature of the game. I think the challenge for her will lie in managing that transition that we're kind of talking about today, like integrating those new players into the squad. And I think it will be a big challenge for her because we've not seen her do it a lot. I think the players we saw coming in the World Cup tended to have been there as subs in the Euros. I think Lauren James potentially the the exception to that. But yeah, I think that will be a really interesting, like how different does that squad look? Will she stick with players that perhaps people might see that she shouldn't have? Will that work? Like, will that consistency work? Or will she look to kind of refresh? And I think that will potentially be the biggest challenge and the biggest question that hangs over that squad coming in 2027, because there is so much talent coming in. It's how do you adapt to that?
Mia, we know how much Sarina likes to play the same starting 11 over and over again, despite results. I mean, obviously, we've won most of our games under Sarina. Does that need to sort of change in the future? Does she need to change things up depending on the opponent, or does she stick with the same starting 11, especially in those bigger tournaments?
Well, it's funny you asked this, Meg, because when you asked Barry what does success look like, to me, I think you can see it two ways. And you can see it in the way of she needs to pick up another Euro. She needs to pick up her first World Cup. You can see it in the way of silverware. That's obviously very high pressure. And it's not just high pressure on Sarina and her technical staff, it's also high pressure on the players. No matter how much they'll want to do that, that is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to win a World Cup or a Euros. So I think the big thing is, for Sarina, is nurturing the next generation. When she came in, we had a team that, if you look at the 2019 World Cup, we had our starting goalkeeper was Carly Telford. We had Demi Stokes out on the whatever side she plays. It was that team. It was that team. It had Jill Scott, Ellen White, Fran Kirby. She come in, she brought in Ella Toon, she brought in Alessia Russo, she brought in Neve Charles, she brought in Esme Morgan. She's bringing in these younger players and she's nurturing them. Also, Mary Earps, who wasn't necessarily young, but a player who she saw had a lot of talent, but problems with maybe her own self-belief and stuff like that. So I think for Sarina and crucially for England's next development for the next 10 to 15 years is her nurturing not only the new generation, but potentially players that like Maz Pacheco or whoever that she might see has the talent, but is not performing necessarily well enough to be put into the squad, if that makes sense. So I think, to answer your question, Meg, I think she has to change the squad because she's got some people that are coming now from injury. I'm not saying Leah Williamson or Beth Mead should start straight away because they shouldn't. I think they will, but you know that's up to her. She's the boss. But it's going to be really interesting to see how she brings new players in and how she sets this side up. I don't see her lasting any longer than 2027 because she didn't last massively long in the Netherlands. I think she'll probably find a new project to do by that point in time. So how she sets us up for the coming decades is going to be a really interesting thing and vital for the progression of English football.
And finally, Jess, I mean, for Sarina to, you know, potentially leave after the 2027 World Cup, to go out winning that would be the perfect outcome, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, that would ultimately be the dream. I don't think that I don't think winning the World Cup should be the measure of success. But I think her winning that would be perfect and would be no less than she deserves. I absolutely think she deserves that World Cup trophy. At the end of the day, being a manager, you could be the greatest manager on earth, but if it just takes one mistake in tournament football by a player, one single mistake, one lapse of concentration, and you could be out. And that's kind of why we both love and hate these tournaments. You know, they only come around every 4 years, so you can't use that as a measure of success because 1 or 2 mistakes and that is you done. You are out of that tournament. And no matter how good you are, you've always got a mistake in you. Unfortunately, that is just football. It's just circumstance. It's how it happens. You know, we've seen it in the World Cup last year with like Germany went out really early. A few teams that were kind of pegged to do well all went out. I think Brazil were another one. You've got 4 years to wait then, you know. So I think I would love it. I would absolutely love it, obviously, as an England fan, but also just for Sarina, basically, to win that World Cup. I think that would... I would die happy then, to be honest. I would simply pass away if that happened. I could not live. I would be so excited. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Meg, you have to take it back because I'm losing my little mind.
Well, I'm definitely getting excited too. And I think we've got, you know, a very exciting few years coming up for England. Whatever success looks like, hopefully more trophies, more players coming in. But that rounds up our Lionesses talk. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, everyone in the comments. You've bombarded the comments with so many different opinions, which we absolutely love. Thank you to this wonderful, beautiful panel in front of me. You're all amazing people. And we will see you very shortly for another video.